Yo peeps, Sdafhaa here. We have a brand new patch, and as usual, I'm gonna be reacting to it for the first time, doing analysis for the first time to see what will change in the meta, what's good, what's bad. It is a very big patch as well. We kind of skimmed through it earlier. Look at all of this. We're gonna be here a while. Make sure you guys have some popcorn. I'm not gonna talk for too long. Let's get things going. In this patch, we've boosted most traditional roaming heroes, including tanks and backline supports. Okay. To help them perform better. We've adjusted early game pacing in the jungle. Junglers on the leading team now have more flexible farming routes, while junglers who are behind have more room to maneuver when the jungle is invaded. That is interesting. Okay, I like the concept, but usually mlbb has a tough time balancing these sort of things, so we will see how that goes. As usual, we'll skip Hirara because I already reacted and gave my impressions about her during the Hero Spotlight. Make sure you guys check out that video on my channel. But we'll start with the hero adjustments. There is a rupee buff. I'm hoping it's a good buff. But we're gonna start with Saber. Saber relied too much on a single burst of damage and lacks sustained damage capabilities. Well, that's literally his entire concept though. We've made adjustments to provide sustained damage before and after casting his ult. We've adjusted his base attributes and depth to allow him to build fighter equipment? Excuse me? For real? Okay, we'll see whether or not they succeeded with this. A base HP increased by 60, HP growth by 15? 15 times 14 levels is 210 plus 60. An extra 270 HP, not bad. And a 0.4 physical defense growth as well, which times 14 is about like 5 or 6 physical defense. Not a small number. It definitely does make Saber a little bit tankier once we get to the later stages. Skill 1 orbiting sword damage has been increased base, reduced scaling, extra damage, increased base, reduced scaling, mana cost reduced, orbiting sword attack reduces skill 2 cooldown by 1 second. Has been changed to reduce skill 1 cooldown by 0.5 and skill 2 cooldown. That is already a very big change because yeah, previously when you would attack with your orbiting swords, it would reduce your orbiting sword cooldown with each attack. Oh sorry, it would reduce your dash cooldown, but now it also reduces its own cooldown. And then the cooldown is increased slightly to make up for it, with the duration being reduced as well. Okay. I forgot how many orbiting swords you usually have. I'll just check that real quick. I need to know that number. Where is Saber? He's right here. How many orbiting swords did he usually summon? 5. He has 5 orbiting swords. So if it's 0.5 per orbiting sword, at maximum you can reduce the cooldown timer by 2.5 seconds, which does definitely make up for the increased 1 second cooldown. Okay. Skill 2 mana cost reduced by a good amount. Ultimate first 2 strikes damage, increased base, reduced scaling. Third strike, increased base, reduced scaling. This does make it so that Saber hits a little harder early game. And he also just straight up scales a little less effectively in the late game, because he no longer gets as much like percentage scaling. In fact, his ultimate gets quite notably reduced percentage scaling because his first 2 strikes minus 20% each, that's 40%, and then the third strike minus is another 40%. So his ultimate does 80% less damage than it used to in the past. So this does help Saber because in the first place he is meant to be an early game assassin. He's not really meant to be played scaling. What I think they're trying to do is by shifting damage over to the base and allowing him to get better cooldown reduction, they are trying to make it so that early game he plays as a burst assassin, but late game he plays as a sustain assassin, right? He's supposed to stay in the fight, kind of jump in and out, and keep casting his abilities. I can see where they're going with this, and having the extra HP and physical defense does help, but this one needs some experimentation. I could see how it could work depending on the item build. If you can really scale well off of like War Axe now instead of building full damage with like Heptasis, Hunter Strike, Blade of Despair, it could be interesting to see. And while it does get more HP, I don't really know if it's enough HP. It is a good amount though. So there's a possibility that we can start seeing like early game burst assassin saber that shifts over to late game armor reduction support, right? I don't know if this will make Saber meta, but we already did see Saber once or twice in MPL MY because he was a counter to Harley. It's just that he wasn't the most successful either. So you never know. This could end up with Saber appearing in the meta somewhat, but I think it'll be a completely different way of playing him. This one will remain to be seen, but I kind of like the idea. Though at the same time, it kind of removes a little bit of Saber's identity of just being like, kill one guy and then you're done. You know, so we'll see whether that's good or bad. Alright, Ruby buff, please. Please be a good buff. As a fighter, Ruby's damage threat to enemies is too low. I agree. We want to increase her damage capability while reducing her lifesteal? Okay. However, her lifesteal capability when at low HP will remain intact. But Ruby is the lifesteal, like, hero. Ruby, no! Whoa, hold! No longer starts with spell vamp? Spell vamp ratio from 125 to 75%. Increased lifesteal ratio by 1% for every 1% of HP loss up to 150. So Ruby is a low HP berserker? Seriously? Okay. Scythe dam— wow, that's a lot of increased damage. Holy shit, okay. That is a lot of damage increase. It gets slightly less total physical scaling late game, but okay. Shockwave damage also increased. Her skill 1 hits hard. Dude, this is 400 damage at level 1. That's kind of insane. Let's assume this, right? Previously, but what does it mean by no longer starting with spell vamp? She still has a ratio, right? Hold on, I'm looking at her real quick. This one is important to me. Maybe skills. Ah, okay. And her basic attacks cannot trigger lifesteal.
No one can take you from me.
Okay, so basically she doesn't heal from auto attacks, which is fine. And then she has a base 75% spell vamp ratio. Let's do the math on this a little bit, right? Previously it was 125% with like 180 damage base, right? So if we do 180 times 125%, what's 25% of 180? Divide by 4. 25. Wait, no, 45, sorry. So 225. She would get 225 healing in the past with her level 1 no items skill 1 spell vamp. Now she does 420 damage at 75%. So 3/4 of 420, blaze it, is 105, 315. 315 healing. It's actually more. She actually does heal more than she used to because her skill 1 just hurts a lot more. Jero says her early is kind of whack now in terms of survivability. Her laning is alright. I can see this because I was really concerned about removing her base spell vamp, but then her skill still retains spell vamp ratio. And her skill 1 does a lot more damage, but she will heal a lot less from skill 2. That's the big difference. She also gets more healing for HP loss, which means that Ruby really wants to build into items like Queen's Wings. She synergizes even better with Queen's Wings now, because her max spell vamp ratio is now actually 150. Hold on, every 1% HP loss up to 150%. So that's— she needs to be at 1/4 HP. She gets maximum spell vamp ratio at 1/4 HP. Which is very low, I will say, but is interesting. And then her ultimate wow! Holy moly! Okay, her skill 1, her skill 2 is the only thing that didn't get buffed in terms of damage. Okay, but the cooldown's a lot longer. I'm a little bit sad about this, because having Hook on a low cooldown was actually one of the nice parts about Ruby. And now I can't really spam it as much as I used to. I would sometimes use it to clear minion waves in the past. Can't do that anymore. But her abilities hit a lot harder, so all of that really does make up for her spell vamp. And she's still gonna be building into like War Axe, Queen's Wings, Oracle, all of that. I can still see Ruby healing like from half HP to full, even though they've nerfed her like passive spell vamp. But it's a little bit more conditional now. She doesn't just have spell vamp all the time. She is definitely a little bit more like fighter berserker style. There's a similarity to Terizla, where like the lower HP Terizla is, the tankier he becomes. In this case, the lower HP Ruby is, the more she heals. Now that can be a little bit risky, because if she's up against like a burst team comp with a lot of CC, then they'll just like CC chain her and then burst her down before she can actually cast anything to heal back up. So there are cases where like you have to be a bit cautious about what team lineup you pick Ruby into, but I could actually see this being interesting. Not to mention that one of the reasons why Ruby was not popular is because she's not very good as a roamer. Her stats were a bit too low to be tanky. And she wasn't very good as an EXP laner because while her sustain was good, it couldn't match Alice or Uranus. But she also didn't do enough damage to necessitate picking. So now, she hits really hard actually. Like, this is a lot of early game damage. Like 420 damage with skill 1 alone on a fairly low cooldown. I can see Ruby's laning looking a lot better. Problem is, can she still compete with the really strong fighters? Because like the really strong fighters right now generally have something like damage reduction or super OP laning. Her laning is a lot better, but it doesn't feel super OP. And she does have her weaknesses because like no damage reduction means that she can still be bursted when she's low HP before the spell vamp kicks in. So I actually want to test this out. I could actually see this making Ruby viable again under certain circumstances. I don't think she'll be top meta because it's kind of hard to beat how strong heroes like Paquito or Yuzong or Lapu Lapu are at specific phases. But I think this could give Ruby a little bit more life. And that's what I was hoping for. Okay, next up. Argus buff, okay. We've adjusted Argus's attributes from being assassin leaning to more of a fighter, which, okay, yeah, that sounds good. And enhanced his combat capability in early to mid game for smoother power scaling. We've also given his ultimate a guaranteed ult. Oh man, he's needed that. So base, oh wow, it's very rare to give a hero base attack. 9 base attack, 150 base HP, 2 attack growth. So he has an extra 37. He has extra 37 attack at level 15. That's a lot. This is without items, by the way. That's like half. That's like half a BOD. Damn. Wait, no, hold on. How much did BOD give? I need to make sure that I said that correctly. Okay, my bad. I thought that BOD gave like 80. But still, that's like nearly half a Hunter Strike. That's nearly half an item. That's a lot still. It is still a lot of attack. There's a reason why they generally don't give heroes a lot of attack when they buff them. Did Ruby nerf drop yet? I wouldn't say it's a nerf actually. It may not be a nerf. It changes the way she plays, but it might actually end up being good. Anyway, attack speed growth as well. Extra attack speed bonus has been reduced because he gets extra attack speed growth, and then he has a slightly slower movement speed. New effect, Demonic Slash has a longer attack range than normal basic attacks and allows Argus to dash a short distance. So he's got something similar to Alucard, which allows him to chase a lot easier, which is good because one of the easiest ways of handling Argus was just kiting him. It was so easy to kite Argus. This is good. Malice Energy's cap adjusted. I don't remember what it was before. Demonic Slash damage has been reduced across the board. Ignores less physical defense. but gets more energy regen per basic attack. So basically, his passive activates more frequently in exchange for doing less damage, and now it can chase, which is actually really good. This is way better than having like a infrequently buffed auto attack that just does more damage. Like, this is actually really, really good. This is excellent, actually. I don't know why they call this an adjustment. This is straight up a buff. This is definitely a better passive than what he had before because of that chase and the more frequent access to it. I don't remember what the cap used to be though. We have to note 25 means that he has to attack like 8 times to get it back. So he does still need to build attack speed in general. We'll see. Skill 1 cooldown has a scaling and it now slows enemies. So Argus can chase really well actually. He has been needing these upgrades for a long fudging time. Holy shit, this is a really good buff for Argus. Skill 2 cooldown reduced by 2 seconds across the board. No longer leaves a cursed trail. Base damage reduced. New effect. They're basically revamping Argus, honestly. This is just a revamp with the amount of changes this is. If hitting an enemy heroes, he gains attack speed for the next 3 seconds. And then immediately restores 50 malice energy after casting Demon Slash. And then the damage of this attack can crit. Yeah, okay, no, he doesn't need to attack 8 times. This is a low cooldown skill 2. He only really needs to attack like 4 or 5 times between each passive, which is a lot more manageable, maybe even like less, depending on situation. And then his ultimate cooldown has been reduced, so necessary. I don't know why they made it so long. They removed hitting an enemy and enhances Warmonger. New effect. Skill will be cast automatically if Argus takes fatal damage while not on cooldown, giving him 3 seconds of death immunity. And then this has a separate cooldown which is the same, which is interesting. But yeah, so good actually. This is actually really, really good. So Argus no longer has to manually activate his ult. We know there have been many times where we see Argus players just die even though they had ult because they just didn't press it in time. Now it activates on its own, which means that Argus can properly focus on chasing people. It's a lot easier to chase people. He does more damage than before. He has a passive that allows him to stick to enemies the same way Alucard does. And then he gets free attack speed as well to help reach this more. Now, Argus will still fall into the same issues as before where he is an auto-attack fighter. And unfortunately, those heroes tend to have a problem because they need to build damage to be relevant threats. But they also need to be doing damage melee and their damage is slow. So they will usually be in threat of dying before they're able to actually use the items that they have farmed. Argus is the one auto-attack fighter that didn't have this issue because he could survive. The problem is he was easy to kite, right? And he had to activate ult manually. Both of those issues have been fixed, and he has gotten buffs that allow him to better chase and better damage. Now, the one thing is, he still doesn't do very much early. We can see that most of these changes actually reduce a lot of his base damage. So he is still very much a late game scaling fighter, so definitely not suited for EXP lane. He will definitely be either played as a jungler or a gold laner. In fact, Jero is correct. I think gold lane Argus is more likely than jungle Argus. Now he is still going to be very vulnerable before level 4 and even after level 4 he's going to be vulnerable because it's not too difficult to make him waste ultimate and then kill him afterwards. I think that Argus still won't really be, like, he was never meta. I still don't think he'll be meta because unfortunately, it's hard to say if he'll really be able to match up to Freya. You know, if you're gonna play a gold lane fighter, Freya I think is still better in general. But Argus may not be far off, I'm going to be honest. One of the strengths of Freya is that she's very sustainable, she scales super well, lanes very well, and chases very well. Out of all of these, the only ones that Argus can no longer do, like at this point cannot do is lane very well, and I forgot the other one I was going to say. Basically, I think Freya is still better in every sense of the word, but Argus is catching up from these changes. He unfortunately still feels very item dependent. So I wouldn't say that he's gonna be super viable, but don't be surprised if we see an Argus here or there, even in the pro scene. Because I think there are situations where he could actually be a not bad pick. Especially if Freya continues to be like perma-banned every game and they haven't done too much to marksman. I could see him being like the second pick. You know, like if Freya's not here and you really need like a fighter, like both of the other marksmen just don't work for one reason or another, Argus could work, actually. So, really nice buff, and I'm surprised it took this long, but hey, it finally happened. Argus mains, rejoice! Okay, next up, we have a Marcel adjustment. We aim to reduce the negative experience of facing Marcel's excessive crowd control, while giving him more chances to showcase his individual skills or coordinate with more heroes. Base physical and magic defense increased by 5. Base HP increased by 200. Wow, Marcel gonna be a little tankier early. Actually, a good bit tankier early. But in exchange, he is a little less tanky late. I think this probably adds up to him being around as tanky as he was before in late game though. HP growth reduced by... Actually no, he's gonna be squishier. That's a lot of HP growth reduction. That's 40 times 14. 560. Less HP than before. Which is definitely a lot more than what he's getting here. But he gets a lot of regen. Okay, you know what? I like that actually. That makes sense because Marcel is supposed to keep running in and out of the fight. So having less overall HP, but having super high regen makes a lot of sense. Now on paper, this is gonna make him harder to play, for sure. Because it's a lot easier to run in and out of the fight if you just have more HP and defense compared to actually needing to heal in between. So a little bit more of a skill ceiling for the hero now, especially in the late game. His basic attack can no longer crit. Can no longer benefit from extra attack speed. Oh wait, no! It used to not be able to benefit from attack speed. Now it can partially benefit. I kind of wish we had the numbers for that. Basic attacks will no longer reduce Platinum Staff's cooldown by 1 second. I think that's fair. It's a bit rough as someone who does play some Marcel myself, but I think this is fair. Platinum Staff is just such an annoying ability. Skill 1 no longer immobilizes? It now slows by 60%, so he just doesn't immobilize people with skill 1. It does a little bit more damage late as an exchange, and does slightly more. Yeah, so skill 1 doesn't immobilize. It only slows, but it slows more and does a little more damage based on his defense scaling. Huh. And then his ultimate, heroes affected by the ultimate can be targeted? What? Seriously? That's a big change. They're not invulnerable during Golden Hour? Damage of frozen projectiles is reduced by 50% after a delay as well. Oh, but then projectiles will still get frozen. So what can hit them? It would basically just be melee heroes that are like on Marcel's team that have been given the shield and can move around inside to whack. Because like if you're a ranged attacker attacking from outside, your projectiles still get frozen. They'll hit eventually, but they're not as affected by the fact that you can target people in the ultimate now. But the duration is also lower. This is weird actually. This is very weird. Is this good? I would actually think this is kind of a nerf. Marcel feels harder to play. Doesn't get his extra scaling off of his basic attacks or cooldown reduction. His skill 1 no longer immobilizes. Heroes affected by the ultimate can be targeted. So that also means that any teammates inside the ultimate that you're not able to reach to give the shield and unlock from freeze can also be targeted. And it lasts a shorter time. Oh, this is weird. Will Marcel still be good after this? I get the feeling that players are going to need a little bit of an adjustment period, actually. Because this is a big change. This really affects how you would want to play Marcel, especially this skill 1. No immobilize kind of feels shitty, I'm gonna be honest. Was there a real need to remove that? Like 60% slow is not a small number, but compared to just not being able to move, you know, considering how Marcel literally has to dive the enemy team to make it happen, that also feels like, huh, weird. And then oh, this needs testing. I think that Marcel will still be played here and there, but he may no longer be like even before this, he was not hyper contested meta pick except in certain regions, and even for like only specific teams. I think he might be a niche hero now. Sometimes you'll pick him, but you will usually not always fall back to him. I think that's what's gonna happen to Marcel in the meta. Okay, we got a Hanzo buff. As a single target burst jungling assassin, we've enhanced his early to mid game damage and improved his ability to contest Turtle and Lord, while slightly weakening other aspects to keep him balanced. Base HP and attack speed growth nerfed by a good bit as well. 150 HP and then minus 14% attack speed late game is kinda oof. Skill 1, new effect. This skill can be used on the Turtle or Lord. Okay. Remove damage to units around the locked area. What is damage to units around the locked area? I don't really get that. Huh? Okay. And then his skill 2, these are both in Hanekage form, by the way, not his base skill 1, skill 2. A lot more damage when knocking airborne. And you can choose the landing area, so that helps. That's a nice quality of life. I don't really get what this means. Remove damage to units around the locked target. Curious. And then his ultimate cooldown has been reduced, but if Hanekage is killed, the ult cooldown is doubled. You know what? I like that. I actually do like that concept. Like, he gets to summon Hanekage very often, but he has to be cautious with it. Because, like, before this, Hanzo could just keep sending his ult out no matter what. Even if it died, wasn't a big problem. Now, the ult cooldown being doubled when it dies means you actually do have to make sure Hanekage doesn't die. Which is nice, but is this really a buff? Like, skill 2 damage buff is really nice. Ultimate cooldown is technically a buff, but it's more of a skill issue now, because they have to be careful with it. They can't just keep throwing shit at him. Skill 1 Hanekage is lock on, not AoE. Oh, okay, I see. Gotcha. Okay. Is this really a buff? I guess it's a small buff. I guess so, sure. But if anything, I think this is actually closer to a rebalance. I feel like this should be a tilde, not an up arrow. Whoops, not free right now, Kaisel. We still got a lot more of the patch to go. But yeah, Hanzo wasn't picked before this. I'm pretty sure he's still not gonna be picked after this. This just doesn't really feel like a buff to me. But it does, I do like this ultimate change. I think that makes a lot of sense. Yin buff, wow. Will he actually be good? We're optimizing Yin's ultimate experience by enhancing interaction with his domain and shifting Lie's combat style to feel more like a fighter. Honestly, they just need to give him a different skill, I'm gonna be honest. Skill 1 in Lie form, remove effect. The first half of the attacks will automatically lock. First half of... It doesn't lock on! So you have to... Oh, okay, I see the next line. So basically, skill 1 will no longer automatically lock on, which means that he doesn't rotate, right? Like, if the enemy moves away in the past, like you would... Your character would turn to keep, like, punching the ground. It doesn't do that anymore. It's locked into one direction. But in exchange, it is only 1.5 second cooldown. And it's after the skill ends. So you can choose when to end the skill and you can cast it again after 1.5 seconds. Which is actually really big. But he's still gonna have some issues chasing people in his ult because I see no changes to his skill 2. Skill 2 is what he needs to actually chase and lock people down. Skill 1 is a lot more spammable now, which helps, but if he's up against like super mobile enemies in his ult anyway, they'll still have ways of escaping. It's just that Yin can actually do something, you know? In the past, if he missed his skill 2, skill 1 combo, he just didn't do shit, even in his ultimate. Now at least he can still try to do something. It's still gonna be a little bit difficult, but at the very least he doesn't feel like a minion in his own ultimate, which is huge. Ultimate, control effects except suppress, no longer interrupt the cast, but Lie will remain controlled after entering the domain. That's fine. There have been so many cases where Yin dashes in, tries to kidnap someone, gets stunned, and his kidnap gets cancelled. Right? Like, how many times as Yin players have we seen the screen start to shift into your ult? You know, your domain expansion, and then halfway it just stops because you got stunned. It was so stupid. Now you will still be stunned, but you will still make the kidnap happen. No matter what, unless you are suppressed, the kidnap will happen. You will just end up stunned inside your ult, which I think makes a lot more sense. This is a really important buff for Yin, because before this, in my opinion, he was one of the worst heroes in the game. Yes, he could still snowball, but in my opinion, he just had the worst hero experience I had ever seen, especially of a fighter. This definitely makes him feel more like a fighter. His kidnaps cannot be cancelled, you can only try to stun him to help your friend inside his ult for a short moment. And even if you do end up missing your first skill 1, you can still try to chase and do damage. Like, perhaps multiple times in fact. You could probably use your skill 1 2 or 3 times on average if necessary, which is massive. Yin will still have his issues because he's still quite immobile and fairly squishy for a melee assassin, plus he's quite item dependent. But this will improve his gameplay experience by leaps and bounds. It actually makes him kind of playable, which is not something that I could say before. Alright, before this I really thought that Yin was like shit. Like, only Aldous was worse. Okay, next up, Aulus really needs a buff, but it doesn't look like a big one. Adjusted Aulus's damage composition, making him more threatening to low HP targets while improving his pursuit capabilities. Why is my ping acting up today, dude? This is an important patch day. My internet keeps cutting out. I'll just keep continuing because I'm still trying to record this for YouTube. So, passive. Enhanced basic attack bonus damage has been changed from 4 plus 0.4% times hero level max HP to 160 plus 20 times hero level. Does this make him more threatening to low HP targets? And then his skill 2 dash distance is a little longer. I don't know, Aulus still feels kinda bad, personally. Personally speaking, Aulus still feels kind of bad. He just gets a nice little, like... Honestly, this is a good amount of damage, but... More threatening to low HP targets? Really? Is it? Did they mess up? Is this reversed? I'm checking his passive real quick. Because something doesn't add up over there. Where is Aulus? There's Aulus. I still miss Old Man Aulus, by the way. Yeah, it is. 160 plus 20 times hero level.
This war axe is itching to crack some heads.
Yeah, where did the floor go? He broke the floor. I don't know, this feels like a weird change to me as well, because previously he had max HP damage, now he only has flat damage, which I guess is useful against squishier heroes. It probably does more damage to squishier heroes now, but he now does less damage to tanky heroes. So it's one for the other. I guess in an ideal situation, Aulus wants to kill the squishy heroes first anyway, so I guess it's fine. But honestly, I feel like they need more changes to this guy. He just doesn't feel as good. In fact, I think that Argus is straight up better than him now. After those buffs, so yeah, Aulus feels bad. Bring back Old Man Aulus. I want to see my old man again. my angry Irish old man. Okay, Ballman buff. Okay, okay. I do like Ballman. It's always felt like shitty to know that he's just not really playable now. Let's see if they've changed that. Move skill 1's physical defense reduction to skill 2. Wow! Okay. HP regen upon a kill from 20% max HP to upon a kill and assist 10% max HP. That's actually pretty nice. That is actually really quite nice. But it does mean that he now has to be involved in killing 2 heroes to match the healing that he got previously from killing 1 hero. There's some situations where the new change is better. There's some situations where the old change was better. This one is really dependent on the situation. But I do like that at least you can heal off of assists. Right? So it's a little bit more similar to Killing Spree now, which makes it a little bit more universal in exchange for having less healing overall. I do think that halving it may be a bit too much, but then again, if they kept it at like, what, 15%, it may be a bit too OP. So I can understand why they would go this far. So skill 1 will no longer reduce physical defense. That now shifts to skill 2. And each hit reduces it by 5% up to 8 stacks. I don't remember how much physical defense reduction skill 1 used to give. Because now, you can go up to 40%. I feel like it actually used to be 40% on skill 1 as well, and it was instant. So having to actually build up to 40% may feel a little worse. And no longer will you increase your damage over time with this skill, but you will still increase damage over time because their physical defense is getting reduced. So I think that's okay. But is it really? Is it really? Oh, thank you for the follow, Yoshi likes. Thank you, thank you. Why didn't the notification come out? Why is the Twitch alert for that missing? Well, whatever. Thank you very much for the follow, sir. Welcome, welcome to the channel. Okay, and then movement speed boost is constant, no longer decays. That's really nice, very good for chasing. Damage flat increased by 5. 1.3% total HP is actually really good. It's way more than 2% extra HP. And then same total physical attack. Cannot crit. Ooh, I don't know how I feel about it not critting. But I suppose Ballman doesn't really build crit in the first place. So basically this kind of streamlines Ballman's build path. In the past, you used to be able to like maybe throw in like 1 or 2 damage items, even a crit item if you felt like being funny with it. But it's not like people were building it anyway, so I think this is fine. Right? Because Ballman is still going to be building like War Axe into the typical bruiser item build. So it's not like skill 2 was going to crit most of the time. In exchange, you do get more HP scaling. Your physical defense and movement speed is basically a little bit stronger as well, so it's a nice buff for Ballman. I don't think it'll make him meta. I don't think it's enough to make him meta, because unfortunately, if you want a tanky jungler, Fredrin. If you want a fighter jungler, Leomord, you know, Suyo. If you want a high damage jungler, the heroes I mentioned before and Harley. Ballman is just in a really weird, like, in-between state, where his utility is good. He is still one of the better heroes at securing turtle because of the way lethal counter works. And this will make him smoother to play overall. But will he be picked up in pro? Not so much, I would think. Unless there are some notable changes that make it so that he's viable. But I don't really think so. He is better utility, Ray is correct, but he's still not gonna match up to Fredrin, you know? Like, Fredrin and Baxia are still way better. Like, Akai still offers more crowd control. You know, and Fredrin does all of that while being able to secure turtle with his ult. You know, Ballman's ult secures turtle a little better than Fredrin, but Fredrin has access to that and more, so that's the problem. Okay, Ling buff. Slightly improved the hero's early to mid-game jungle clear speed and damage. Basic attack speed increased by 0.13. Skill 2 cooldown reduced to 2 at max level. And then his ultimate will briefly reveal the position of enemy heroes hit. Okay. So he can basically reveal invis heroes. That makes Ling actually kind of an okay pick against like Not really. I would like to say he's an okay pick against like Natalia or Amon. Maybe Amon, but not Natalia for sure, because he's still gonna be weak early and Natalia is just gonna gank him all the time. Not really much of a change to me. Like, they say that they're improving the early mid-game jungle clear. That's only really the attack speed, because the skill 2 cooldown only applies to late game as well. So this is not that big of a change if you ask me personally. Ling still feels kind of a bit too squishy and too item dependent compared to other jungle heroes in the meta. Now we got Rafaela. Reduce the cooldown of the respawn skill in early game. Boosted early game damage and optimized skill mana cost. Passive now has a 10-second base cooldown, but then has a higher multiplier, which I think is fine. It actually does make sense that Rafaela should be able to use her respawn more in the early game, because early game respawns are so low anyway that it makes sense, and then it scales up more as time goes by. Resurrection skill can no longer be tapped when unavailable. Death info of other players is now displayed around the button. Okay, so you don't have to tap it to see. And then skill 1 base damage, actually quite a lot. 125 extra damage early is actually a good amount considering its spam ability. Skill 2 mana cost reduced by 5 early, 20 late. Ultimate mana cost reduced by 30 early, 40 late. I do think that the resurrection change may make Rafaela an interesting early game support situation. But then if you're going to be playing an early game support, Matilda is still really good. Estes still provides more healing, low I am to admit it. Florin is still solid. Angela is getting a little bit better after the recent changes. I think that Rafaela is still in a very niche situation that just doesn't really make a lot of the sense a lot of time. Especially considering you're giving up a very, very important roam slot that could be one of the tankiest heroes in the game that also heals a good amount with Revitalize or shit like that, you know? Like, it's a nice little change. It makes her a little bit more interesting to play when it comes to, like, pubs. But in pro play, nah. Speaking of Matilda, boosted the hero's mid to late game damage. Oh no, Assassin Matilda? Lilo? Drooling at the sight of it? Magic bonus increased by 45%, dude, that's a lot. Like, even in the past, Assassin Matilda actually hit pretty hard. Now she hits like a fudging truck. She hits like an airplane actually, because she's gonna be flying straight at you. Ultimate impact of dash damage increased late. Base damage per wisp increased. Shield magic bonus increased. Mana cost reduced. Wow, this is a really big Matilda buff, dude. Matilda mid may be viable. She still doesn't quite match up to the damage of other mids, but she could be a good roam option again. I could see her potentially being a good roam option again. Not picked every game, but there are certain games where you just want healing and a little bit of extra damage from your roamer. Matilda fills in that slot. There's not a lot of healing roamers that also offer damage. Matilda's basically the only real one. Like, you could build other supports into damage, but I think Matilda will benefit from it a lot more most of the time. So, okay. I personally don't want to see more Matilda back, you know. Anytime a healer returns to the meta, I cringe a little bit, especially if it's Estes. But I could potentially see this bring Matilda back. Maybe not as a top meta pick, but a viable option in pro play. If you do want to play Ube, this doesn't seem too bad to me. Because like that extra damage is a lot, you know, and she's gonna be building magic scaling in certain cases. Then again, most of the time in pro play, Matilda builds like Flask into full tank, maybe Enchanted, right? So will this really affect pro play? I guess we'll see. I guess we will see, because in the end, magic damage is still a very strong thing. I still think that magic damage is stronger than physical until they add more like magical defense items. So okay. Oh, there is an Estes buff. Adjusted the hero to align a roaming hero changes. Also adjusted the hero's early to late game power curve and optimized mana costs. Base HP increased by 39. HP growth increased by 12, so he does have more HP late. about like 1 to 200 more HP. Skill 1 hybrid defense increase. Now scales off of magic power. This actually ends up being like a lot, I'm gonna be honest. Cause like late game Estes, so basically in order to match his old hybrid defense increase, he would need 150 magic power, right? Because 10% of that would be 15. How would he get 150 magic power? He's definitely going to build a flask. That gives him 60. I don't actually know what the Estes build is. Heck, if he gets a Holy Crystal, he already has more than before. He already has more than before just with Holy Crystal. You might get like Oracle. I don't think Oracle gives magic. Yeah, no. Wasamo is very happy because, you know, Estes main. What else does Estes usually build? If he goes Blood Wings as well, like he will definitely give more hybrid defense in the late game. Early game a little less, but it's not like early game you're going to be doing less damage anyway. So yeah, this just makes Estes really annoying again as well. One-shot Estes build. I mean, Estes always builds magic damage. He's not building it to do damage. He's building it to do more healing. The mana cost is reduced late game. Skill 2 mana cost reduced late game. Ultimate mana cost reduced overall. Okay. Alright. It is a good amount of physical defense, but I do feel like under the current meta, healers are just not very good to play. Now, I say current meta. We are expecting the meta to change because this is a very big patch. Right? This is a very, very big patch. We should 100% expect the meta to change. So when I say like the current meta, I'm referring to the old meta. Yeah? Keep that in mind. But on the old meta, this would not really help that much because there is still so much damage going around and good amounts of burst. Heck, Eve or Lilia would be enough to burn through most of your healing regardless. And you don't have like the tankiness or the utility of like heroes like Hylos to get out of situations, help your team get out of situations. So your early game is gonna be weak. Your late game is annoying. Your mid game might be good depending on how you scale and what the enemy team is. This does make him feel a little better, but it really depends on how the meta shifts in order for this to feel like solid enough. Personally, I hope I don't see him. I hate Estes so much. Jachung asks, are we gonna rank later? Wanna test things out? We'll see, depending on the timing. But I do want to try Hirara and Ruby, actually. Okay, next up. Angela, optimized mana cost, so just basically cheaper skills, which is nice. Angela does sometimes run into mana issues, so this makes her a little nicer to play. Doesn't really change too much about her power level. She is still weak to CC, which there is a lot of in the current meta. Alright, again, old meta. We don't know what the current meta is going to be. And yeah, Angela's still gonna be about the same power level. Unfortunately, it just feels a little bit too bad to give up a mid lane or a roamer for a healing support. Because yeah, they can heal a good amount, but there's gonna be very niche situations where it works. We did see an Angela victory in MPL MY when Chiku played it, but I think that's kind of a unusual situation. So it's a nice little quality of life for Angela, and that's about it. Florin is the same case. Will healer supports make a return? Because yeah, they are kind of like updating utility supports across the board here. Matilda got a really nice buff to damage. Estes heals a little bit, like makes his team a little bit more tanky. Angela and Florin just have cheaper spells. So out of everyone, I can see Matilda being the most likely to be picked up from time to time. But again, really depends on how the meta shifts and what kind of lineups are going to be played. Next up, we have Diggy as well. Adjusted hero to align with roaming, attribute changes, and adjusted mana cost. Base HP reduced by 27, HP growth by 5, physical defense by 5, physical growth by 1. So Diggy is just squishier for some reason. So they're definitely changing something about the roaming boots, actually. Because I've seen this like once or twice now. They're changing something about the roaming boots to make heroes tankier. That's why Diggy is being nerfed. And then Estes also. But Estes got buffed based on HP. So what's the difference here? Was Estes that much squishier than Diggy? I wouldn't know. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but interesting. Skill 1 mana cost reduced, skill 2 mana cost increased actually, so it gets scaled now. Okay, sure. Personally to me, I actually want to see Diggy in pro play. I feel like Time Journey is still one of the best ultimates in the game because it just denies all crowd control. But I can see why he's not played, because without Time Journey, Diggy feels kind of rough. He's just not tanky enough, even if you go full tank. So we'll see what kind of changes we can expect going forward, but I don't really think we'll see too much Diggy unless there is some kind of big change to utility supports that makes them more viable in this new meta. Hilda nerf is necessary. Reduce the hero's early to mid game burst and increase her mid to late game durability. Okay. Base HP reduced by 80. Skill 1 shield actually scales up to more, so that is what they mentioned about her late game durability. Skill 2 damage reduced by 20 across the board and 10% physical attack. She'll hurt quite a lot still, but a little less than before, and I think that's actually okay. I'm actually kind of okay with them slightly nerfing Hilda's damage, cause I don't want them to actually nerf her that much, cause otherwise she just becomes unusable. Hilda is always in that weird balance spot of like, she needs to do enough damage to be relevant, cause that's really all she offers, and she really drops off late game. She scales a little better into late game now. I think Hilda will still be a pretty viable pick in the pro meta because there's very few heroes that can invade jungle and be a consistent threat across the map the way she is. But again, I did hear there were some jungle changes and roam changes, so depending on how those affect the game, we could see Hilda being better or worse. But for me right now, I think she'll still be around the same area in terms of strength and pick rate. Khalid, reduced early to mid-game burst, increased his durability to improve over balance. Ooh. Skill 1 damage reduced by 25 and 10% total physical attack early. So this actually adds up to a good amount. This adds up to about like 75 damage early because remember it's 3 hits. Damage on minions is slightly higher, so his wave clear is a little bit stronger. And then skill 2 cooldown is reduced by 4 seconds across the board, which means that in certain really extended fights, Khalid might actually be able to cast his skill 2 twice, which is kind of annoying. But they did mention about his durability. I'm gonna be honest, this might make Khalid better than Hilda. And you could actually argue that Khalid already was better than Hilda even before this change, but I think this definitely makes Khalid a better early game like roam pick than Hilda. Because honestly that sustain is really good. Hilda probably still does a little bit more damage than Khalid, but not by that much, I would say. So okay, I think these are fine. These are very necessary adjustments. Because like these two heroes were just a little bit too viable. I think it's good to always have a meta where damage roam is a possibility, but it was a little too frequent. Kalea nerf slightly reduced the cast frequency of her control and mobility and adjusted her damage curve to reduce early game damage and increase late game damage. Base damage of second basic attack has been changed. It's now 60 or less base, but plus 8 times hero level. 8 times hero level means that it will do more damage than before once she hits level 8. Yes. So at level 8, her second basic attack will do more damage than it used to. Before that, it does less damage. And then her third enhanced basic attack will do more damage, also at level 8. So basically, yeah, Kalea will do less damage overall before level 8, which is firmly in the early mid-game. Skill 2 cooldown increased by 3 seconds early, 2 seconds late. Okay. Will this kill Kalea? I don't think it'll completely kill Kalea because she does offer a pretty good niche in the game of a single target pickoff hero that gives healing, but her trading ability was actually a big part of her early game trading as well, because we know how active level 1, level 2 mid lane is, right? A lot of trading actually happens around level 1 or 2 in the mid lane. So Kalea just straight up does a lot less damage at that particular timing. Again, this depends on how the meta shifts and whether or not we will still see those early game skirmishes in the mid lane. For me, I think Kalea is still a very viable pick, but she already wasn't a case of like picked every game. She's picked when the team needs a single target pick-off hero and doesn't have access to heroes like Cho, for example. So I think Kalea still fulfills that niche very well. I think she'll still be played. Minotaur. Increase Minotaur's damage. Skill 1 damage increased by 45 early, 145 late. Good amount. Enhanced basic attack damage changed from 3% total HP to 25 plus 5. Wow, okay. Minotaur definitely does more damage. Problem is just a little bit squishy. Like, to be honest, I did kind of wonder why Minotaur wasn't really a popular pick in the recent meta, because recent meta is really shifted into big team fight gameplay, and Minotaur is supposed to be one of the best heroes for that because of the big ultimate and then the healing that he offers as well. Is giving him more damage really the way to go here? Personally, to me, I think that they could actually make him a little bit tankier stat-wise. If they did, I would straight up say that Minotaur would be like a meta-viable pick. Instead, they let him do more damage. And it honestly is a good amount more damage, but the big damage buff is in his enhanced basic attack, which he doesn't get access to that often. But he does get bonus damage in his enraged state as well. Obviously, Minotaur is not going to be doing a lot of damage in the first place because he's going to be building tank. So I don't think this will make Minotaur suddenly meta. It's just a slight bit more DPS. Well, I say slight, but it is actually a fair bit, especially in enrage mode. It's a tricky one. I personally don't think that Minotaur is good enough still. I think that really the issue is his bulkiness. It's just not enough, since he will also need to build flasks, so he's gonna be dealing with one less tank item than other tanks while having way lower base stats than, you know, Gatot or Hylos. So, this one's a little bit of a question mark. I don't think we'll see Minotaur still, though. Now we have Carmilla buff. Greatly increase Carmilla's threat when closing in on enemies in the early game and optimize the growth curve of her passive. Skill 1 base damage increased by 20, which is a good amount since it's the spinny flowers thing that hit you multiple times. And then stolen hybrid defense, reduced early, increased late. Okay, good adjustment for Carmilla. She's still not really gonna be that popular, but we know that there are like a good number of Carmilla players in pubs and they're gonna be quite happy about this one. She's a little more annoying early, steals a bit more defense late. That's about it. Slightly increased Kufra's early to mid-game damage. Enhanced basic attack deals 100 extra base damage. Nice quality of life, not gonna do that much. His enhanced basic attack is not available that often. Personally, if you ask me, I think that Kufra could be buffed by making his enhanced basic attack have a lower cooldown. If Kufra can heal more often, he would probably be a really good roamer. It's just he's a bit clunky right now. A lot of his abilities can miss. He's not as tanky as other roamers. Not a very good revitalize holder either, since he'll typically need flicker to actually engage. I think the problem is that his abilities are hard to land. You know, and even when they land are not really impactful enough. Not to mention that a lot of heroes can actually outdash his bouncing ball now. So that's the big issue. Nice quality of life, not gonna change much about his meta-ness. Atlas buff, wow. Increase Atlas survivability to adapt to the roaming hero attribute adjustments. What are these adjustments? I need to see this. But they made Atlas tankier. They made Atlas and Estes tankier, but they made Diggy squishier. Why was Diggy nerfed in stats? Atlas gets an extra 90 base HP, an extra 37 HP growth. 37's a lot, dude. That's like 400 extra HP late, and then an extra 4 base physical defense as well. Okay, I mean, I don't mind that. Atlas is already good. We'll see him a little bit more with this. Unless Diggy suddenly returns to the meta. If Minotaur gets played, Atlas is a little worse. If Matilda gets played, Atlas is a bit worse. Atlas is not as good at... Atlas is surprisingly not as good at dealing with healer comps. You know, I have lost count of the number of times I picked Atlas into Estes thinking, ha, I can catch them all when they're together. And for Estes just to actually out-heal my team's damage. Insane. Jero says it's because Diggy has a high win rate in pubs and very frequent. Really? Okay, I guess that's in higher level pubs because I have not really seen much of him myself. They buffed Hylos! Base HP increased by 100, HP growth reduced by 10, so he does end up having less HP late, but more HP early. Base physical defense increased by 5, magic defense growth. They made Hylos tankier? But they nerfed the Diggy? Why? What are these roaming attributes? I really need to see what this attribute adjustment is because I don't understand it right now. Honestly, it's really just Diggy. If they made all the heroes tankier across the board, then okay, I assume that they made the roaming attribute adjustments like reduced. But they nerfed Diggy and they buffed one of the tankiest heroes in the game. Why? Okay, sure. Also increased Chip survivability, so he gets 119 more HP and another 18 HP growth. Damn. So they're making all the tanks tankier? Except Diggy? Base HP also increased on Gatot, physical defense increased by 5. Akai also 100 extra base HP, 3 less HP growth. Johnson, 3 more base physical defense. Tigreal, 119 extra HP, 17 less HP growth, 5 less physical defense, 1 less physical defense growth. So Tigreal gets nerfed in terms of HP as well. Like he gets more base, but it gets less tanky across the board in terms of growth. Are you thinking Diggy is a tank? I'm talking about roamers. They're clearly talking about roamers. That's what I'm trying to say, sir. And then Grok also gets extra base HP, 1 physical defense growth. Edith has a lower cooldown on skill 2 in the late game, which is nice, but Edith just feels so bad right now. Needs a major look to like really return to the meta, because like her CC is still good, but the fact that she has to shift from tank into damage probably cuts her out of contention in a very team fight oriented meta. We saw Edith once or twice in MPL MY for some reason. I still don't know why they picked her. I guess as a way to deal with Marcel, but I wouldn't really say it was the best either. So yeah, Edith still feels really shitty. Freya, reduced duration and effectiveness. Okay, Freya nerf is very, very needed. She is straight up one of the best heroes in the game right now. Skill 2, range reduced by 0.2. That adds up over time. Ultimate cooldown increased by 10 seconds early, 2 seconds late. Fair. Enhanced basic attacker range reduced by 0.2 to match skill 2 range. Ultimate duration reduced by 2 seconds. Okay. Freya's still gonna be very, very strong, but she has less access to her strength. Because honestly, this extra 10 seconds cooldown is going to be felt in that early game. Late game, not too much difference. Early game, you will feel it. Because you're not going to have the CDR to help reduce it either. So you need to be a little bit more deliberate with when you decide to ult. Because otherwise, you are going to waste it. And Freya does still depend a little bit on snowballing. So I think this is a good nerf. She could honestly be nerfed a little bit more, but I think this is fine. She's still gonna be strong, but maybe she's not hyper meta. I still think we're gonna see her banned in a lot of games though. Glue nerf as well. Glue has been sitting high on the win rate and ban rate leaderboards for too long. He decided to make some adjustments that free him from the ban list. Skill 1 explosion base damage reduced by 50 across the board. Ultimate attached regen reduced by 5% early. Oh, Glue is still gonna be really good, dude. Like, yes, his skill 1 damage was annoying, but that was not really the issue. This dude is impossible to kill. But at least he does have counters with Faramis and Vexana, right? I think it's fine for Glue to be kind of strong, like, as long as he still has counters. But I do think that they could afford to nerf his tankiness slightly. They already did by reducing the amount of HP he's healing early, but he still heals the same amount later on in the game, which I think still makes Glue very, very good regardless. Shyper says Ruby Glue counter, they effed Ruby S3 up so much. Yeah, I really dislike how long they made the cooldown. Like, I could see her changes in the other skills being kinda good with some practice, but the skill 3 cooldown is like, big oof. Really big oof. Okay, next up. Phobius. Slightly reduced the hero's laning ability in the early game. Base HP reduced by 100, physical attack reduced by 12, physical defense reduced by 3. So Phobius is just not as tanky early on. He'll still be kind of annoying to deal with the later the game goes, and he's still meant to be a good counter to dash heroes, but he was just a bit too good overall before this because teams were just picking him up without dash heroes on the opposite side regardless. Because honestly, there's so many dash heroes in the game right now that it's a safe bet you're going to be facing one or two, and Phobius was just such a good laner that it was worth picking him anyway. So I think a nerf here is very, very necessary, and I think this is a fair one of just reducing his stats without affecting his damage numbers or cooldowns too much, because I think those are okay. It's just, he really was hard to kill. So this is good. I think this is fine. Zusin nerf. We've noticed that Zusin was Zusin nerf again. Incredibly powerful in both high rank matches and in pro matches. Therefore, we've increased the cost of skill 2. Mana regen from each Crimson Butterfly has been buffed, so she gets more mana from her passive stacks, but skill 2 mana cost is increased. Basically, she can't use the lantern as long. I had to process that for a little bit to see what that meant. Basically, she will still be able to get the mana back, it's just that she can't hold skill 2 for as long as she used to. Right, because it'll cost more. So like she has to stop casting it so that she can get the mana back and then continue casting it. So a little less sticky, which is necessary because this hero is so difficult to handle, even though she has damage issues. Pro players know how to deal with it somewhat. We've been seeing Zusin's win rate kind of drop now that pro players know how to deal with her. But if you're not prepared for it, she still is like super annoying, like super duper ridiculous. She gets faster mana regen after casting, so her downtime is a little shorter in exchange for her lantern duration also being shorter. So honestly, I don't think Zusin's affected as much, you know? Like, the people that will be most affected by this are the people that just held skill 2 without giving a shit, you know? People who are used to playing Zusin won't feel the difference all that much. Eudora buff. We've adjusted Eudora's skill 1 to make triggering lightning chains easier. Superconductor duration increased, which is nice. And then skill 1 cooldown reduction from delayed damage is half of the skill's cooldown. Wow! So more spammable skill 1. That's actually pretty nice. I think after the previous boss, a lot of us were wondering, is Eudora actually kind of viable to play now? But turns out no, she is still unfortunately a little bit too bursty. This does allow her to cast her ability more often, but the range is still very short and very simple. You're still gonna be picking artillery mages a lot of the time, especially those that have better scaling into the late game, since mage is still kind of a secondary DPS role. So this is nicer to play for Eudora, but not gonna make her meta. Jero says, actually the difference for Zusin will be felt in team fights, especially late game. We need blue buff now when playing Zusin. Yeah, I think that pro players know like roughly how long they can hold the lantern above people. So that's why I said that they'll probably feel it a little less than people who just chew it out willy-nilly. But Jero is correct in that once you do hit late game, and people are tankier and fights last longer, you will probably need some way of getting that mana regen up to keep throwing people, because having downtime in late game fights feels very bad, especially as a mage. Right? Zeusin was already dropping off a little bit in pick rate because, you know, heroes like Eve, Lilia just had more accessible damage options, even Kimmy in some cases. So this is a necessary nerf. I do still think that pro players will pick Zeusin if they're comfortable with it, if the time is right for it. But yeah, not hyper meta. Ray says Eudora is underrated because skill 1 is now less than 5 seconds cooldown. I could see that being the case, but I think the problem is she's just too close range for a mage. She's very close range and doesn't have escape tools, right? Even heroes like Valier, who are ordinarily kind of close range, get like ultimate to have the ultimate that makes her range longer, have ways to push people away, has a built-in purify. Eudora just has nothing. It's either she kills you or she dies. I think that's the big problem right now, but she definitely will be more annoying with how spammable skill 1 will be, especially since it's easier for it to also chain into her full combo. You could probably get 2 skill 1s quite easily in the same combo now. Okay, Aurora feels like shit. Slightly reduced skill cooldowns in early to mid game, not enough. Aurora needs a bigger change overall. It's either in the damage or like the way her control effects work, because it's a little bit too hard for them to land right now. And having lower skill cooldowns does mean she gets more chances to try and land them, but it just doesn't feel worth it, you know? Especially compared to all the other mages that I've already mentioned before. So yeah, the Aurora still not gonna be meta. Suyo needs a nerf. Dude's a little bit too strong. Reduce a hero's early to mid game damage output. Skill 2 tap damage reduced by 20 early, 52 late. Why was it such a funny number before? Base damage of the first 2 strikes in hold reduced by 25 early. 45? Yeah, 45 late. Final strike reduced by 40 early. Why are his numbers so weird? I never knew this. But yeah, a fairly notable nerf to Suyo's damage, which actually is going to hit him quite hard. Because the reason why Suyo was still so valuable, even with his vulnerability to magic, was because 1, he had high mobility, 2, dude hit like a truck. And now, he honestly deals a lot less DPS. I cannot be certain, but I feel like it's not impossible that this could take Suyo out of the meta. I'm gonna be honest with everyone. I think that Suyo could actually drop out of the meta because of this change. Because like this extra damage really made a difference. Not to mention that like Suyo players would oftentimes build Sky Piercer on him just to amplify the damage even further. Having lower damage means that he can no longer take advantage of that as easily too, since you're not going to be dropping to those low percentages like before. So I cannot say 100%, but from my personal perspective, this could be enough to drop Suyo out of the meta, I will say. Especially since it's skill 2. That's like his best ability. It's not just for killing, it's also for jungle clear. Jero is correct, right? It's very crucial for his jungle clear speed. That's also another thing of why Suyo was popular. He cleared jungle very fast. This will affect that as well. Yeah, I can see Suyo being killed from the meta because of this. Leomord nerf as well. Slightly reduced the hero's early game farming speed and mid to late game durability during the ultimate. Damage against creeps reduced by 20% is a lot, by the way. That's a lot. Again, jungle clear speed is one of the reasons why Heroes is meta. Like Leomord literally hopped up to one of the top meta hero picks, largely because of this extra creep damage. So while 40% is still a lot, it's less than before, and it's kind of a similar damage scaling situation to Suyo. And then his hybrid defense is reduced by 20 late, which I think is very necessary because holy shit, man was tanky, especially if he snowballed. I think that Leomord is still slightly more viable in the jungle than Suyo right now. But both of them are going to feel worse. Which makes me wonder, what are going to be the viable jungle picks after this? Because not a lot of jungle heroes got straight up buffs in this patch. What jungle heroes got straight up buffs? Like, I'm not talking about small things like Ling here. I guess Yin, but I don't think he's gonna be good. I don't think Hanzo is gonna be good. Saber. Could Saber take their place? I think Saber did definitely get a good buff, but is it enough? Or Jero might be correct. We might actually end up seeing more tank jungle because it doesn't look like tank jungles got hit very much. Or maybe it's later on, we'll see. For now though, Liam, Ward, and Suyo are gonna feel a lot worse. Slightly improve the handling of CC's passive. Stack removal, 1 stack every 0.3 seconds to now 1 stack every 0.5 seconds. This was probably a little bit too fast. CC basically disappeared from the meta overnight, and I had a feeling that would happen the last time I checked this change before. So this helps a little bit. And if we do end up going back to the era of tank jungles, CC will indirectly reappear because she is still one of the better fighters for dealing with tanks. Still scales very well in EXP lane. A little worse in gold lane now, but still possible to play. I kind of wonder how CC versus Argus gold lane would go. Who would actually win? Because honestly, Argus got a nice buff. Next up, Claude. Okay, Claude nerf is needed. Straight up, best marksman in the game, no question. Harif is close, but Claude is just too universal. Compared to other marksmen, Claude hits his power spike a bit too early. To address this, we've adjusted the damage comp of his ult, reducing its early to mid damage while keeping late game damage unchanged. Ultimate has gone from base 120, 180 plus 10% total to base 40, 60 plus 40% total. Yeah, much more late game scaling than early game scaling now. So before this, Claude could kinda join fights early on and still contribute fairly well. Now, you might just not want to join fights until you actually have Trinity complete, no matter what. Which I think is very needed. He will still farm very quickly, he still hits like a truck late game. It's just that he's not allowed to be as active early, which I think is a fair compromise. To me, I still think that he's really good, because even if he does do less damage in early team fights, he can still kind of join them. You know? Like a Blazing Duet will not really do any damage at all, but he can still pick up assists. Like, what makes Claude really, really good is how well he scales late and BMI's existence. Battle Mirror Image is one of the best mobility skills in the game. And as long as he has Battle Mirror Image in its current state, he will still be very good. Because very few marksmen can farm and fight as safely as Claude does. And has as varied of a battle spell pool as he does. So even if he does do less damage and can't join fights as early, I still think that Claude is going to be very, very good. One thing to note though, is that other marksmen can now beat him in lane. One of the big issues for Claude is that even though he's one of the best late game scaling marksmen in the game, he was actually beating multiple other marksmen in early mid game in the laning phase. Claude won the Harif matchup, which to me was insane, especially considering how much of a buff Harif got. Harif got buffed to be one of the hardest hitting early game gold laners in the game, and Claude was beating him in lane because of how much he could heal off of his spells and Blazing Duet. No longer the case. Harif has always historically been a Claude counter. He is now officially back to being a Claude counter, which is very needed. Not to mention that other early game marksmen like Brody, Clint, Moskov, well, Moskov is not really early game, but you get what I mean. Heroes that scale a little bit quicker and can fight earlier than Claude can officially start beating him in lane as well. Claude is still a really good marksman, but he is back to the status of being like, he needs his Trinity to join fights. So I think that's very fair. I think this is very fair. Harley's skill, yes! Yes, this is what I've been saying! Thank you, Moonton! Reduce his skill 2 mobility! That was the problem, not his damage. It was this. Yes, thank you. Skill 2 cooldown increased by 1 second across the board, and then the skill cost has been increased. Mana won't really be a big issue. I thought that they were reducing mobility, dude. This isn't the mobility, this is cooldown. I thought they were making it so that he would run slower. This is not what I asked for. I retract my statement. I wanted them to make him a little slower after teleporting with skill 2. Yes, a slightly increased cooldown is still a step in the right direction, but it's the movement speed. That's my big issue. It's still a much needed nerf though. I just think that it should have been targeted at something else. Oh, they nerfed Paquito. Well, I knew they were gonna nerf Paquito. He was just too good. Alright, what have they done to my boy? We're happy to see Paquito back in action, but he's currently a bit too strong. I have to agree. We've slightly reduced his early and mid-game combat and link clearing power, but he remains a strong pick. We will be the judge of that. Enhanced skills, extra damage to minions, changed from 10 plus 1.3 times hero level percent to 2 times hero level percent. That is okay, I think. Because at level 1, it was 11.3. Oh, yeah. At level 1, it's 11.3 before. At level 1, it's 2. And this is a percentage, actually, so that is a big early game nerf, actually. Damage reduction after casting enhanced skill. Oh, that's a big nerf. That's a big nerf, actually. Yeah, so his enhanced skill, extra damage, and damage reduction have both been changed from 11.3% at level 1 to 2% at level 1. At level... Okay, Paquito usually hits his power, like, let's say level 4. Level 4 is the important timing, right? At level 4, it would be 15.2%. Now it's 8%. It's half. Holy shit. How about at max level? At 15, it would be... At 15, it would be... What's 0.3 of 15? 1.5. It would be 26%. He had 26% at max level before. And now he has 30. Oh wait, no. Is that right? Did I calculate that right? What is 1.3 times 15? 15... It's 16.3, right? No, 16.5. So it's 20... So it's more in the late game, actually? Is it actually more in the late game? That's kind of surprising. Now, okay, I'm gonna pull out a calculator. I don't trust myself right now. Something doesn't feel right. 15 times 1.3, 19.5. Okay, I was counting it wrong. So yeah, before this at max level it was 29.5%, now it's 30%. So his skill damage to minions and damage reduction at level 15 is about the same as before, but it is now way less throughout the rest of the game. In fact, at his very important level 4 spike, it's half of what it was. So this is actually a very big Paquito nerf. I can see Paquito still being somewhat solid, but he's not as free to play. Because before this, Paquito was actually just free. He was a free pick. You know? Like, he was so strong that you could pick him no matter what. He could invade jungle early, he could fight early, he could one-shot people at level 6. So I think it's very needed to nerf him, but I wonder if it's too much of a nerf. Cause like, around level, let's say level 8, right? Like halfway through the game, it used to be about 20%. Now it is 16%. A little, like, the longer the game goes, the less the difference will be felt. The most notable change is gonna be before like level 5, I think. Right? Like before level 5, Paquito will feel a lot weaker. But I think he's still quite solid, because they didn't change his damage numbers or his shield numbers. They just reduced his damage reduction and his minion clear speed. In the late game, he'll still be just as viable. So I think this is very necessary. it will 100% drop Paquito out of first pick material. There is no longer a reason to insta pick Paquito, but he is still a pretty okay hero pick. My issue is just with like how the rest of the meta will progress, because like Paquito will feel worse against tank junglers, right? He's always felt worse against like tanks. He wants to like burst down squishy heroes. And if squishy heroes are not as viable, with like assassins and fighters starting to be phased out of the jungle, then Paquito will also indirectly see less play. So that's the thing. He was just buffed some days ago, but Moonton let so many buffs be there for so long. Why force the Paquito nerf? Because his buff was genuinely too strong. And they honestly left it for a couple of weeks. As a Paquito lover, as this is one of my favorite heroes in the game, I personally think they buffed him too much. So he actually did have to be nerfed. I have to agree. Is it a bit much? Maybe, but I actually think it's an acceptable amount. Because he's still gonna be pretty strong in the mid to late game, he's just a little weaker early. And that was their goal as well, right? So I think this is fine. Okay, that's all the hero changes. But we are not done, everyone. Let's go with the battlefield adjustments. We have control optimization. Oh, you can now drag skills to a hero's avatar for quick cast. That's actually really nice. Within 3 seconds of losing a hero lock with no new targets, the previous lock will be restored. That's also really nice. So basically, this is all to counter Sun. Optimize locking status, casting the skill will no longer change. Okay, that's really nice. Enhanced basic attacks will now be cast no longer interrupted. Ooh. Enhanced basic attacks will no longer be interrupted by skills. Wow, that's actually a big change. There's like a lot of heroes where they're trying to cast an enhanced auto attack and it actually gets cancelled halfway. Now it will still like go through. So that's actually pretty notable across the board here. Are there any heroes that will affect them more than others? Probably cases like Guinevere or Yu Zhong. Yeah, cases where like the enhanced auto attack gives you like some kind of really big buff will feel a lot better. Thereof. Okay. Optimize skill buffering. When your hero is controlled, quickly releasing the skill will stop it from being buffered, preventing accidental cast when the control effects end. Yes! Yes! Oh my god, there have been so many cases where I got stunned midway casting something and I'm like, oh, I don't want to cast it anymore, but it got buffered. Okay, so what do we need to do? If we release a skill within 0.3 seconds after a control effect, the skill will not be buffered. If you release it after 0.3 seconds, the skill will be buffered and cast automatically. So this needs a little bit of adjustment. Because you actually do have to react to the situation now. Right? If you don't want your skill to buffer after you've been CC'd, you need to quickly release the button. Which is actually not trained behavior. Because for basically all of us, we are used to the behavior where when we release the button, we cast the skill. Right? So this could actually still trip some people up. Because we are used to situations where release button, skill gets cast. In this case, once we're crowd controlled, we have to release the button for it not to cast. Right? Because our autopiloting, our subconscious behavior is, oh, I've been CC'd, I'm going to hold the skill button and then release it after the CC is over so that I can aim it myself. But that's actually wrong. You need to let go. Which is really going to trip people up. I will admit it. I will get tripped up by this. Because this is not normal, right? You do not think like, oh, I'm CC'd, I'll release the button. Because normally, releasing the button casts the skill, right? In this case, we release the button to not cast the skill. It is very anti-built-in behavior. So this is something that we have to get used to somewhat. But I like that at the very least they acknowledge it and finally add something in to deal with it. We will need to train that. Skill wheel aiming. Added skill wheel size and skill settings, allowing you to adjust skill wheel. Okay. Alright, that's nice. Custom UI. Okay. Alright. What have they changed with the roams? To improve the flexibility of roaming blessing, all blessings can now gain EXP and gold by dealing... Okay. So before this, different roaming blessings would gain EXP and gold through different things. Like for example, Dire Hit lets you gain EXP and gold from dealing damage. But now all of them do the same. You can deal damage, reveal vision, and share income from any roaming blessing, but the income gained each time has been reduced. We acknowledge that damage-oriented roamers can generate gold by harassing enemies, but we do not encourage the playstyle of boosting themselves by taking gold from minions and creeps killed by their allies. Therefore, we've extended the duration during which heroes with roaming blessing receive reduced gold from creeps and minions when alone. Huh. So... roamers just straight up get a lot less EXP and gold for longer. Which I think is actually okay. Because for a while we've actually had a bit of an issue where roam heroes would actually out-farm the other players on their team if the game wasn't going well. Because they were just getting free gold off of roaming blessing and still sharing gold and stuff. But 8 minutes is a long time, dude. Not to mention that they actually get less solo income from minions and creeps now. So what this means is that in the past, if you had a minion, if you were a roamer and you had a minion wave in front of you and there was no one around to take it, you could just basically take it and just deal with the fact that you only got half the EXP and gold because at least someone's getting something. Now you only get 30%. Which means that you may actually really want to hold that minion wave for your teammate. Right? Instead of trying to clear it for yourself. Like if there's a wave of minions coming in, your teammate is still running to the lane. There are many cases where the roamer or the jungler even would just take the wave. Even though you're probably able to make it back to the lane to catch it if they help you hold it for a short while. Now you really need to hold it because you're just not getting that much in return. It's not really worth it to steal minions away. But for 8 minutes, I don't know how I feel about that. That's a very, very long time. But okay, that's a notable change. And then we got revamps. Dire Hit gains force while moving, gradually increasing movement speed. Upon reaching 20 stacks, the next skill or basic attack consumes all stacks, dealing extra damage based on the number of stacks. Interesting. Interesting. Dire Hit can give movement speed. And movement speed is honestly a very valuable stat. My question is, how does that movement speed build up? Is it based on distance traveled? Let me look at the blessing. How does it build up? Gains force while moving, gradually increasing movement speed. Is it based on distance travel or time passed? Because if it's time passed, then it doesn't matter how fast you move, you'll get it around the same time. If it's based on movement speed, then it means that faster heroes naturally want to build Dire Hit. It is distance, Lilo says. So yeah, Matilda, as you guys are pointing out, will get a lot out of this. Marcel as well may have reason to go for this. Any hero that wants to build rapid boots may have a reason to go for this. Next hit consumes all stacks and deals extra 2 damage. How much? Can we see the number? Damn, I wish they would give us the number, dude. How much damage per stack does it do? Because that makes a difference, dude. I wish we got more numbers sometimes, even though we get a lot of numbers in other cases. But okay, that's interesting. I actually like that. That's kind of fun to think about. It gives you a little bit more, and it definitely helps for like damage roamers, because not even Matilda, right? Hilda, Khalid, Helkert, Natalia, all heroes that want to move around the map a lot and very quickly will benefit from this. So yeah, that's pretty nice. Conceal, cooldown reduction. This was previously nerfed quite hard to 80 seconds, and then we started to see basically no one really use it all that much. It is still very popular though, so this is just a nice buff overall. Makes you kind of wonder, okay, which roam... I think it's interesting now, because it means that roamers actually do have to think about which roam blessing they want to buy. Because all of them can gain gold off of damage and vision, you know? Conceal is still really good, but part of the reason why Conceal was so good was because it gave you movement speed on top of the slight invisibility. Now Dire Hit also gives you movement speed and extra damage. Now granted, Conceal gave your entire team movement speed, while Dire Hit only gives you movement speed. But it's still like a notably closer change, where heroes have to think about what could be better based on the game. Right? Gurky asks, Dire Hit show before Lord fight, then Conceal after Lord. Maybe. I think this needs some experimentation actually. I could see players kind of messing around with this a little bit, because yeah, roam swapping is still possible. Okay, and then rapid boots. In the current fast-paced meta, combats occur more frequently, leaving less time to be out of combat. Therefore, we've removed the out-of-combat movement speed boost and increased... Oh! Oh! So basically, in the past, rapid boots moved faster outside of combat than inside of combat. Now you move at the same speed both out and in combat. But I don't remember what the number was before. Right? Because they just say it went from 65 movement speed to 55. 65 is the movement speed we had out of combat. I don't remember how much movement speed rapid boots gave us in combat before this. Do you guys remember what that number was? Because I don't. It was 35? Holy shit! So rapid boots lets you move to like an extra 20 movement speed in fights in exchange for not being faster outside. What the fudge? This pairs with Dire Hit. More heroes might want to build rapid boots with Dire Hit. Heck, not even roamers necessarily. Like, if you're a squishy hero that wants to move around the map, and like, Tough Boots is still one of the better boots in the game because of that resistance, but if you are squishy enough that a single CC will kill you anyway, then you may as well go rapid boots. Oh, Yoshi says it was 65 out of combat, 45 in combat. Even so, 10 movement speed is a good amount. This is actually a really solid change. And kind of scary, actually. Because, like, now Marcel can just keep running in and out of the fight without needing to worry about, like, being slowed when he's hit in combat. Of course, Marcel did get nerfed, probably in preparation of this change as well. So that's really, really interesting. Okay, this is fun. Jero says mid laners rejoice with rapid boots, get rid of the wilderness blessing, go bargain hunter, yeah, things like that. I can see the meta shifting a lot because of this. It's already fast paced, this could make it faster. Dire Hit and rapid boots may make the meta faster. We'll see. Berserker's Fury. We've noticed that crit-based heroes are struggling to see play as their damage against frontline heroes fell far behind that of attack speed effect heroes. Yes, to address this, we've given crit-based heroes way more ways to damage frontline heroes while keeping their damage against the backline unchanged. What does this mean? So it gets a slightly less physical attack, slightly less crit damage, but it now has a new passive. When basic attacks crit, they deal... Whoa! Extra true damage equal to 12% of the damage before reduction. I need to think about this a little bit. When basic attacks crit, they deal extra true damage equal to 12% of the damage before reduction. So this is, in a way, denying damage reduction. Because imagine this. Let's say that your crit did 100 damage, and your opponent that you crit had like enough physical defense to block like 12% of it. So before this, they would have taken 88 damage. Now, they will also deal an extra true damage equal to 12%, which in this example is exactly the damage that they blocked before. So now it also just does the base 100 damage. It's just straight up quite strong, honestly. This is actually a good amount of damage. I like, number type things are very difficult to really imagine without actually seeing it in action, because they are correct. Crit based builds were just not good enough, because they were only really solid for dealing with squishy heroes, and there were a lot of tanky heroes blocking squishy heroes. But this depends on the numbers, cause will it? Cause they did take away 10% crit damage to do this, and it'll probably balance out to tankier heroes that had reduction. But what about heroes that have no reduction? Like, does this actually reduce damage if the if the opponent you're hitting has less physical defense? 12% of the damage before reduction. No, it is based on your raw damage, right? The reduction actually isn't taken into account at all. So yeah, I think this is just generally a buff. This is a total buff, because it is not taking into account the opponent's physical defense, it is ignoring it. It is taking a chunk of the damage that you did and making it ignore the defense of your opponent. So yes, it will still hit very hard against squishies, and it will be more effective against tanks. Okay, alright, not bad, but is that enough is the question. Because attack speed heroes are still designed to deal with tanks, and it seems like tanks are still gonna be pretty good. Tanks were not really nerfed across the board here. Jungle adjustment. Okay, we finally got to this. Holy shit, this has been a long patch note review. If this is gonna be like, what, a 2-hour long video? Maybe even more. To alleviate jungle heroes' weakness when invaded by multiple enemies in the early game, we've made some optimizations and provided more possible jungle routes. Ooh, retribution, basic damage. Wow! What the fudge? That's a lot? What? That is an extra 230 base damage plus 70 per hero level? So even at level 1, your retribution does 300 more damage than before. What? Basic level 1 retribution does 900 damage? And then advanced retri deals a little less base, but still more multiplicative. So when you hit advanced retri, it deals the exact same damage at level 1, which is 900. But then it gets higher. And yeah, that's at level 1. You're not gonna have advanced retri at level 1. It's usually a couple levels after, so it will do more damage. Retribution just does more damage in general. Wow, okay. And then creeps. Reduce base EXP of Thunder Fenrir and Molten Fiend, aka purple and orange buff. Oh well, it took a while for this spinner to appear again. But yeah, so they reduce base XP of the buffs, Oh, it didn't send me back to the main menu. Increase the base EXP of other creeps while keeping total EXP. Oh, never mind, it did. Damn it! Even sending me back to the main menu lagged. What the hell? Okay. Keeping the total EXP needed to hit level 4 by killing 5 creeps unchanged. Okay. Killing Horned Lizard, Fire Beetle, and Lava Golem will level you to 2? And their first respawn time is moved up to 25 seconds. So, okay, what was their first respawn time before this? Was it quicker than 25? Wait, you don't need to start on buff? Oh, that changes everything. That watching changes everything. You don't need to start on buff. Increase base HP of Horned Lizard, Fire Beetle, Lava Golem, and Thunder Fenrir. And reduce base HP of Molten Fiend. So orange buff is squishier, but everything else is tankier, including purple buff. That's weird. Okay. Slightly increased late game gold rewards from all the jungle camps as well. I was wondering what they were going to do when they said they wanted to make jungle pathing more flexible. This is insane. I now understand why Red Tree deals more damage if they are making all the camps tankier, except Molten Fiend for some reason. Ray says, enemy beetle is where I will start now. Easier level 2 invade before jungle gets level 1 from buff. Oh, this changes a lot though. Like, junglers can actually start exploring ideas. Dude, this is the day before a tournament. There's no way you can identify what the best jungle path is. In fact, there may not be one. There may no longer be a best jungle pathing. You may actually just have to adjust to which camp you start on based on every game now. Cause like any camp can get you to level 2. You could invade and steal a camp to hit level 2. You could take one of your easy camps to hit level 2. You could take a... I assume you can still hit level 2 by taking a buff. Oh, this is fun. This is really fun. Oh dude, man, I'm so sad I'm not casting MSC. This is so fun to watch. You don't know where the junglers are going to start. There's so many strategies you can do with this. Can damage roamers steal camps? It's not very viable because it would take them a long time to kill the camp, but could you cheese as a damage roamer by just trying to steal a camp and hitting level 2? Can a roamer do that? You probably wouldn't, right? Because you don't get as much EXP without retribution, but... Huh. Why do they say purple and orange buff? One is red, the other is blue. Why make it complicated with non-primary colors? I don't think I need to explain. You just have to think about it a little bit. Oh, this is very fun though. This changes everything. This really changes things. Not to mention that a lot of the junglers that had quick jungle clear, like Leomord and Suyo, got nerfed. Right? We were thinking like maybe Fredrin and Baxia may regain some popularity if the quick clear junglers were gone, but them not clearing as fast may feel worse now. Fredrin, maybe. Baxia still clears pretty quickly. So maybe Baxia will become like the premier jungler, right? You know what? Thinking about it, Baxia might be the premier jungler. Because he is tanky to avoid invasion, he can easily invade, he's got the movement speed to do it, and he's got one of the faster clears among tank junglers. He didn't get nerfed either. Baxia may be one of the best junglers now. With like the nerfs to Leomord Suyo. RIP YSS? How is YSS? YSS may feel kind of... I don't know, I feel like any jungler that can get invaded might feel worse now. You might have to like properly draft to defend your jungle and make sure your opponent can't hit level 2 off of one of your creeps. Especially the golem, right? The one that's closest to the river. Right? That like Beetle is the easiest to steal from a secret point, like a point of like you won't know it's happening. But Golem is the easiest to steal from an access point. That's the closest to the river. Oh man, okay. Fun, I like that. I do like that a lot. So these are just UI optimizations. Huh? Adjusting hero stats in Mythical Honor? Only? What? Hold on, does this mean what I think it does? Mythic Honor has different... Oh, I don't like that. I don't think that's a good idea. Why? Why would you do that? Wait, that's so weird. Alpha has reduced ultimate cooldown. Edith has reduced skill 2 cooldown. Dirov has increased physical defense reduction. Melissa has skill 1 cooldown. Cecilion max mana increase is higher. What? So what? Pro play actually uses this then, right? What about tournaments? Do tournaments use this? Oh, it does! Tournament matches! What the fudge? I don't like this. I don't think this is... No, please don't do this. I cannot... As a caster, I cannot have the memory of 2 different sets of stats for the same hero, dude. Please. I know I only really need to think about the tournament version, but what the fudge? Are you serious? We're testing a new balancing approach, applying hero stat adjustments specifically to Mythical Honor. So they're testing it out. So if they like it, they might actually make it normal going forward. I don't know. No. It shouldn't be like that. If you make the game different for higher ranked players and tournaments, then how are like the mass majority of players going to be able to relate to watching the games? The reason why a lot of players watch games is because they want to see how pro players play the same game they do and how differently it feels. But if the game naturally is different when you're watching it, then you lose that connection. Right? Like if a pro player makes like a super cool move on Cecilion now, there will be a gap. You will not be able to think like, oh, if I was better, I could play Cecilion like that. No, you will think like, oh, he can play Cecilion like that because he's in Mythic Honor and he stacks faster. Dude, no, that's not a good idea. You guys get what I'm saying, right? I hope that this is not something they decide to go forward with. I'm gonna reach out to Moonton about this, and the other casters about this, because I do not agree. Bush vision. Optimize delayed vision loss. Vision delay applies when both sides are visible. When entering a bush with an enemy hero, the player will enter conceal state after a 330 ms delay. It changes to when entering bush with enemy hero nearby and both sides are visible to each other. Oh, okay. When player leaves a bush, enemy heroes inside remain visible. Oh, that's big. That's kind of big. When you leave a bush, any enemy heroes that are inside you can still target. Dude, you cannot bush kite in lane. Dude, what? Hold on. One of the best laning strategies is to just keep going in and out of the bush to make people lose auto lock on their skills. You can't do that anymore. Yo! That's crazy. That's crazy actually. Holy shit, this is a big patch. Okay, is that everything? I think that's everything, right? Okay, we are finally done. Wow. Wow, everyone. We got some insane stuff at the end here. big changes to roaming, especially with rapid boots. A little bit more difficult to decide which roam blessing you want to start with. Huge changes to jungle, because you now really can just decide how you want the path. I don't agree with having different changes for mythical honor and above. Please, no. Bush changes, honestly gonna affect the game a lot overall. Jungle change is definitely the biggest one though. That's the one we're going to see the most out of. Okay, well, I'm speechless, honestly, everyone. This has been one of the longest patch note reviews I have ever done. And I am glad that they dropped so many bombs at the end because it kept it interesting. I'm not gonna give too many final thoughts. I think I've already explained enough. This has gone on long enough. I'm gonna be ending this patch note analysis video here. By the time this comes out, we will probably already have seen some pro players experiment because we got the Asian game qualifiers starting tomorrow, right? So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes. But thank you everyone for watching this patch note analysis video. Make sure you guys drop a like, subscribe to the channel, comment below what you guys think about the changes and my thoughts and everything, right? And yeah, I'll see you guys on the next video. Thanks everyone. Bye bye.